Welcome to Letchworth, a small town of around 30,000 people that lies around 35 miles north of central London. 100 years ago, Letchworth was a small village of around 100 people and it wasn't notable. Today, for many still, it is just a stop on the London to Cambridge train. Yet Letchworth is notable for two reasons. The first is that Letchworth has the UK's first roundabout. The second is that Letchworth holds the title of the world's first ever garden city, which is exactly what that sign says. Garden cities try to achieve a simple aim to combine the best of town and country living. The idea for garden cities came from Sir Ebenezer Howard in 1898, when he published his work, Tomorrow, A Peaceful Path to Real Reform. The book was his thoughts on how we could achieve the utopian ideal of the jobs and wealth of the town with the nature and beauty of the country. Now, Howard was no trained urban planner. At the time of his 1898 work being published, his job was for Hansard, the official record keeper for the UK Parliament, and prior to that he had held a few clerical roles and had failed to be a farmer. Yet he didn't let that stop him. He had read a lot of utopian literature and hung around with anarchists, socialists and the like. His cities would be independent, combining high-paying industrial roles with low-rent homes, and the land of the city would be managed by a group of trustees whose role would be to run projects to make the city better and maintain it to its high standards. And this would all be financed through essentially property taxes on those who lived here. In 1899, Howard formed the Garden Cities Association, and in 1902 his book was republished as Garden Cities of Tomorrow. It was around this point that Howard strived to make his city a reality and started approaching investors. At first he approached groups he believed would be sympathetic to his aims, including the workers' cooperative movement. Yet in the end he had to resort to wealthy investors, which meant he had to compromise on many of his ideas. Gone was the public ownership, replaced instead with landlords, and his symmetrical design for the city was instead replaced with a more typical layout by architects brought in for the project. Yet despite these compromises, construction was able to go ahead. 16 acres of land was purchased from a nearby Quaker group, and only one tree was knocked down during the entire process. After its construction was completed, people did come to live and work in Letchworth, yet some came to simply look. It quickly garnered a reputation as a kind of hippie, idealistic settlement, not helped by the fact it was one of the few dry towns in the entirety of the UK, with its pub behind me being known as the pub with no beer. This meant Howard couldn't come and drown his sorrows, where his working class city, which would be owned by the workers, instead become a somewhat privately owned middle class area. Yet if nothing else, his investors were pleased. The city started making a profit after less than 10 years. Howard would try to create a second town named Welwyn Garden City, around 15 miles south of Letchworth. While it was built, it wasn't as successful as he hoped. Instead, Howard's legacy is far more difficult to quantify. He has left behind two beautiful green metropolitan areas where thousands of people live, and his work would certainly influence the New Town movement in the UK after World War II. The New Town movement was really people sympathetic to Howard's aims, who during the pressures of urban housing following World War II's destruction argued for new cities to be built across the UK and these to be far greener than their old city counterparts. Sir Ebenezer Howard would die in 1928, and he's buried behind me in a cemetery in his first creation in Letchworth. Even here, those who live in his planned city, many don't know who he is, and he isn't famous. Yet his work will influence the lives of hundreds of thousands of people a day, whether they're on holiday in Epcot, Disney World, or through living in one of his planned utopias.
I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please do subscribe for more and check out my podcast, where I cover topics like this in a lot greater depth. Thank you for watching.